Good morning, everybody. I'm Matthew Dixon, the founder of eBay.io Ratings. Very pleased to be with you today on 3.0 TV, bringing you the latest traders report. So we'll just begin with Ethereum. We've been treading water for the past few days. I say treading water, I believe that's what the situation is. So just looking at Ethereum, I think that gives us quite a clear picture. We obviously had that long-term decline. Then shortly before the Petra upgrade, we began to move to the upside. That could have potentially been a consolidation, but the Petra upgrade gave us the stimulus to move sharply to the upside, and that's what we've done. So I think that basically we've had a one, two, three, four, then ending diagonal wave five, which makes up a larger wave one. Then we pulled back ABC for wave two. Now we're working on this wave three. I believe that's potentially and probably complete now. So that would also, being an impulse, would also be made up of five waves. So from this red wave two, the red wave three itself should be made up of five waves. So I've done that in blue. We've got basically wave one, wave two, little wave one and wave two. Then a nice extended wave three, which is normally the case. Wave three is normally the more volatile, more exaggerated and extended wave. And then we got an ABC down for wave four, probably some kind of expanded flat, most likely. And then wave five, we can see within wave five, we also have one, two, three, four, five. The interesting point is this wave three is more than 1.618 times wave one. This is wave one here. I transpose that measurement to the bottom of wave two. And wave three is more than 1.618 times wave one. Now, 1.618 is a minimum expectation I have for wave three always. So I'm quite comfortable this being a wave three. As I say, it's broken into five waves, and even the fifth wave itself, that both the third wave and the fifth wave are broken into five waves. And we appear to have, following the completion of that wave three, we appear to have a nice ABC wave four down. I just opened the chart out a little bit, looking really good. And what's very interesting as well is we have some nice clear bearish divergence at the top of wave three here. That's very often the case. So we have here higher highs in price, corresponding lower highs in RSI. And we're coming at the top of wave three from an overbought RSI situation. We can see we're above that 70 line on RSI. That's quite important. It tells us that there's likely to be a decline. But it also showed us here that this final move up in this fifth wave in blue, to take us to the top of wave three in red, it was showing a decline in volume whilst there was an increase in price. So that was showing that maybe some of the big whales were already taking profit out of this market as we approached this almost all-time high. We almost challenged the previous all-time high, which is this red dotted line here. And that was going to be an obvious area of overhead resistance. And that's why a lot of the big whales were taking profits here, and that drove the price down. As we await tomorrow's Jackson Hole, we've got the Fed Chair Powell's speech, his testimony, and that will really clarify the situation regarding interest rates. Now, this is a real important driver for not only cryptocurrencies, but for all risk assets. The outlook for interest rates is very important. At the moment, we're looking at most likely a decline or a cut in interest rates coming on the September 17th meeting. And tomorrow's Fed Chair Powell will give us, I think, some indication as to what the thinking is among him and his colleagues as to the outlook for interest rates. So if they're looking forward to a potential cut in rates, I think that'll be good for markets. And bearing in mind, we've seen following this wave three, I think we've seen quite a nice clear ABC move to the downside, and then quite a powerful upward movement here. It's quite a powerful upward movement we saw yesterday with this green candle, and let's see how we continue. But it's looking as though potentially we're going to get some dovish rhetoric out of the meeting tomorrow, and that could drive markets higher. It could and probably should drive Ethereum. If this ABC is completed, then that is just a correction. We should now move impulsively to a brand new all-time high for Ethereum to take out the previous long-standing all-time high of 4,800 and change. So I'm looking forward to that. I believe we're going to see upside soon, but it's just possible. We've got three waves down. The correction could actually morph into a more extended correction, but it would still, for me, be bullish, and I'm bullish at the moment. Every time I see three waves down, for me, it's a buying opportunity. I don't ever commit all my capital in one go. So I'll commit a portion of capital if I see an ABC down. If I were to see another ABC down, I'd commit some more and do the dollar cost averaging scenario, where basically we're buying dips because we're reasonably confident this is certainly, in my view, an impulse to the upside and this is a correction to the downside. That does tell me that we certainly have some more upside to come. So, as I say, dip buying is the strategy I like to employ in situations like this. So, I do think Ethereum is pretty clear as to that it is looking corrective. We're pretty near the midline for RSI, so there's no clear signal there. We could potentially actually drop lower, which would take RSI down lower before we reverse higher, but that's not a certain fact at all. It's quite interesting as well that let me just see now. I sometimes like to use this is a signal which isn't often talked about in textbooks, but I draw trend lines along RSI lines here. Now we're just potentially breaking above the trend line here. This is a trend line drawn from these lows. If we were to break clearly above this trend line and remain above it, then I'm confident that we will push higher. It's actually just another little positive signal that I use. No indicator by itself tells you the whole story. So it's good to combine as many as possible, and I use divergences in a big way. I use Elliott wave for the overall framework, and you need to interpret Elliott wave in terms of the other indicators, moving averages that are really useful as well. So that's a summary for Ethereum. I think Bitcoin is telling us pretty much the same story. Potentially, we've got from the top here, it's an ABC down, or we could have even had what's called an expanded flat correction. So potentially three waves down, three waves higher, and then possibly five waves down, or it could even be a WXY, which is a 333. So we could potentially have a little bit lower to push, potentially for Bitcoin. I think around this 110,900 is a very important level. So if we do push down, once again, I'll be looking to buy dips. So all around these sort of levels, I'm looking to buy dips and basically dollar cost average in, try to build my position with the underlying view that we should be pushing to new all-time highs reasonably soon. I don't think the story's changed. I know we've seen some ETF sell-offs, some outflows from ETFs over the past few days, but that can very quickly reverse. And I think the backdrop story for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alts is actually still quite positive, but so much hangs on the interest rate outlook to come the next few days. We've seen a nice little rebound on Solana, which we see yesterday was quite powerful. And once again, we can see from the local top here of $209, very clear A, B, C. It's three waves. That is crystal clear at the moment. And the fact that we moved up yesterday, overlapped this move down here, tells me it's not going to morph into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a clear three-wave move down. Again, it's possible that we could continue a little bit more sideways correction, but it's looking likely that we've turned the corner here. And as I said, this was a buy zone around this sort of area. And I think that we should move impulsively to the upside very, very soon. I'm hoping tomorrow will give us the fuel for that rocket move to the upside. I'm hoping that we're going to get. Same sort of thing with XRP. XRP has been a little less bullish, and I know we've had some whale activity, some sell-offs in XRP, and also in ADA, Cardano. I think there's some whale movements there, which were some little sell-offs giving us a little bit of negativity. But again, potentially, we've got a corrective move to the downside, and potentially, I think we're going to move. Hopefully, if we get positive news tomorrow out of Fed Chair Powell on interest rates, then that could give some impetus for upside again. So again, I'm reasonably bullish, less so than the likes of Solana, Ethereum, and even Bitcoin. But even so, I know XRP can actually turn very quickly. If we've had some sell-offs, maybe that's got some deadwood out of the market and opens the way higher for other assets. Jasmine, again, one that I talk about quite a bit, just because it has a really powerful community, a very strong following there. So again, we look as though we had a nice little impulsive move to the upside here. Looks like a corrective move down. And yesterday, again, we see that powerful green candle and looking as though we're setting up for another move to the upside. I hope so, and it certainly looks that way. S&P had a really nice turnaround yesterday. We dipped down quite sharply, but then you can see um, it pushed quite nicely to the upside, finishing near the top of that candle. So potentially again, this is was the previous all-time high. We just took that out briefly, but we've had a dip down. I think we're probably going to push higher again there. We've got divergence here, but though, and that's what caused this sell-off here. So we can see we had higher highs on price, and if you drew the lines in, corresponding lower highs on RSI. But overall, we've had a bit of a sell-off, so that's actually respected that signal there, potentially again looking positive. So risk assets are going to be affected by tomorrow's interest rate news, or when I say interest rate news, I mean the discussion, the thinking that Fed Chair Powell and his committee have around interest rates. So there's no real clarity just yet. I mean, dollar is this DXY here is still treading water. Potentially, we may get some downside on dollar to maybe retest this long-held parallel channel support line here, and that would align with our thinking about potentially dovish rhetoric out of tomorrow's Jackson Hole meeting. So let's see what tomorrow has for us. I think it's going to be very, very important. So market's probably treading water a little bit, but I'm actually still bullish. I think the moves are being corrected to the downside, and I'm bullish and just using these dip opportunities as dip buying opportunities. So hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great weekend ahead. Have a great day tomorrow, and bye for now.